I thought I would do another example that's just going to tie a lot of the concepts that we've been building on in this whole series together. And go back to my roots on old airplanes. So I took a 3 view that I had sitting around for a Convair 240, which is one of my all-time favorite super cool 50s prop liners. And I decided for this example, we're just going to work on the nose. I'm going to show you how I would do this nose, what I would consider the proper way, right? If we wanted to make a nice, clean, smooth nose that follows our input geometry. And this is one of those pieces, these modeling pieces that I see people over and over and over again struggling on. I've seen all sorts of stuff where they loft it into a point here and they lose a lot of control around here in terms of the surface quality, right? Where there's either puckers or wrinkles, there's problems there. I've seen where they loft most of it and trim it back and just cram it into like the patch function or something like that and let the patch sort of fill in a circular-ish hole here at the front. All of those methods are going to suffer losses of quality or losses of control, and it should also just be the sort of thing that we should have in our back pockets if we want to do this the right, clean, nice way. We should know how to do that, right? This is a classic problem, this type of shape here. So what I started with was just generating the guide curves. And I've kept everything here degree 3 that I've done. So everything's just a degree 3 guide curve. Everything's planar. I've made sure I've kept everything really nice and tidy. One thing that I should mention, right? So these guide curves, I've broken this sort of into a top and a bottom half. And so we're going to have to model each of these and make sure that they match to each other, and then we can mirror the whole thing, right? And this is a very, very common kind of problem where you have something that's kind of a body of revolution, but definitely not, right? And so how do you, because there's not really an elegant way to do this without having a loss of control, or frankly, I find it very difficult to do this with any sort of a revolve approach. I've tried those. I find those very unsatisfying. And also, I should note, we're only doing the nose, and I don't have any cross sections for this, and so I'm really just I'm just making up these cross sections here that we have in the front view. But one thing I want to highlight is that since these guide curves are just done to tangency, right? So my guide curves are only done to tangency. So I should not expect my surfaces to follow those guide curves and have any greater continuity than tangency, right? So if I was to say make the top and the bottom half curvature continuous, I would have to understand that I would not be adhering to my guide curves because my guide curves are only tangent. And this is a common issue that I see where people create guide curves that are not allowing them to create the continuity that they want in their final model, right? Or they don't even understand that they're prohibiting themselves from achieving a certain continuity target, right? And so this is just something to always think about. There are ways of doing this that are more complicated. I'm trying to make this sort of the easiest case. There are ways of doing this that are more complicated where everything would be curvature continuous. It's more involved, so let's start with the simple case. And let's just understand what our targets are, tangency in this case, and that we should not expect curvature continuity and to adhere to our curves. Hopefully that makes sense. So to start with, and again, I'm gonna model a top half and a bottom half. So I'm going to just do the top half because they are identical. So I have all my curves here. I'm going to turn off my 3 view for now. Let me turn off my, there we go. And I am going to start making guide extrusions to make the top half here. So I'm going to extrude this and hit explode. I'm going to grab this and extrude it and hit explode. Wonderful. And so now I have these 2 cross sections here. I have these guide extrusions that I've created. And I have a 4-sided hole. I need to use my edge tools to split my edge. Surface from edge curves doesn't automatically Boolean edges together, and so if I can feed it something that's 4-sided, but if an edge is oversized, surface from edge curves will fail. It will give me a unexpected result. So here we go. So we've split this edge here at this cross section. We've split this edge, and I overbuilt this particular guide, which is absolutely fine. We can certainly do that. And so I split it here between these 2 here, and I go surface from edge curves. There we go. And I say 1, 2, 3, and 4. Awesome. I'm going to put this onto surfaces, and I'm going to make surfaces my active layer. Great. So we've made our surface. Let's turn on our points. It's exactly what we would expect it to be, right? Really beautiful. It's just a single span degree 3 in both directions surface, and I'm going to run match surface on it and give it the surface edge here. And in this case, we just want to have tangency, none, and match target isocurve direction on both of these. Awesome. If I want to check this, I can use my VSR global matching analysis. You can check it other ways if you want, but we can see that our G1, which is our tangency, is at absolute 0 here. That is perfect. That's exactly what we want. Now, we can go ahead and split this, right? This is, well, let me back up a second. What do we have here? We have, let's change this onto here, change object layers. Wonderful. I'm going to turn my curves off for a second. Right, we have a three-sided hole. You should know by now, like, we're going to solve this by trimming back and using a trimmed corner, right? We're going to turn our 3-sided hole into a 4-sided hole so that we have control over our surface exactly where we want it along our guides, right? If we were to, and we can have control over tangency, and we're not going to get a singularity at one of these corners, right? So I'm just going to split this surface by isocurve. And this is, at this point, this is lather, rinse, repeat from previous videos, right? So you should sort of start to notice how the way I'm solving this problem is the same way that we solve the bow of a ship, and it's the same way that we solved that shallow dish. There's just so many uses in the trimmed corner. Solid, sphere, center radius, so that I get a nice even setback here. I intersect this with this. I delete it. I extract my isocurve here. I toggle it in this direction. Wonderful. And then I do my blend curve, and I blend from here to here. And I'm going to do, pointed in the wrong direction. Let's do that again. Let's do this to this. Let's flip to, awesome. And I'm actually going to do tangency here across the center line. Tangency across the center line is perfectly fine. We don't need it to be curvature. So I've got curvature coming off this and tangency here. Now, I need to reset this edge because we split it we split it here, but we actually now want it to be split here, right? So I'm going to merge this edge. I'm going to rebuild my edges, and I'm going to split it back again, now to here. And now I have, unsurprisingly, a 1, 2, 3, 4-sided hole. That's nice and pretty. Let's split this one right here. Right, again, surface from edge curves doesn't want to see overbuilt curves. You have to give it exactly what you want. But it does nice stuff for you, so that's good. 1, 2, 3, 4. First thing we do, we turn on the points, right? So we turn on our points. We see it's done exactly what we thought, right? It's degree 4 because this was a degree 4 curve right here. And it's degree 3 because this is degree 3 across here and this is degree 3 across here, right? So let's start matching this, right? There's no guarantee with surface from edge curves that it matches anything, right? So we should do this right here. And again, tangency, and we want to match the isocurve direction of this. Same thing here. Same thing here. Wonderful. Now, so what you can see, what you can notice here is that we moved these verts because we matched here. We moved this vert right here because we matched here, this edge. But this vert here, we actually matched this one. But notice, like, look at this sort of sawtooth thing we have going here. I don't really like that. And we can change it, right? This, actually, we can slide this up and down, and this should still be tangent here. And I don't love right here. I don't love this right here. I might just take it for now and just move it out here a little bit. Let's see. Let's see if we can. Okay. That will be fine for now. This is actually going to end up getting set by the edge. That looks a little better. Cool. We care about the flow of these verts. Like these matter to us. And so we want them to be neat. If you have nice flow to your verts, you're going to have a nice flow to your surface. Right, we can check this really quick. I'm going to use my global matching analysis. Say apply. And we can see that we've still got some work to do on these surfaces. One thing, so I use this global matching analysis. Any tool that you use a lot, any command that you use a lot, I've actually assigned this an F key. You can do that in your file properties here. File properties. If you go down to, there we go. If we go down to keyboard, this is really nice. You can assign custom F keys. This is great stuff. Highly, highly recommend you do that. So we are not quite at the continuity that we want yet. Right? We could probably, if we turn this on, we could probably see that it's not quite right even. What we're going to do, right? Same as before, we're going to up degree and we're going to align. Oh, let's show this again. Good. Okay. Wonderful. So we're going to change degree. And each of these, we're just going to bump them up 1. So like U goes from 3 to 4, and V goes from 4 to 5. And then we want to match surf again. In this case, I'm going to do multiple matches. And I'm not going to do this edge quite yet. What I want to do is I want to make sure that I have these 3 edges done first before I go on to this trimmed edge. And so I can do multiple matches and say this to this, and this to this, and this to this. And all of these should be tangency and match target isocurve direction. Grab all these again and just feed them into my global matching analysis. right? Everything's gotten crazy, crazy low in terms of my tangency breaks, you know, 0.07, 0.02, and then a bunch of zeros. This is exactly what we want, right? This is wonderful. So now that those are nice and low, I'm going to pull, and again, if you want to, you can use zebra on these. You could use a light line analysis. That's sort of how you would analyze it with your standard Rhino tools. So again, I've pulled this, and this is one thing to mention is I like to make sure that that this surface and this surface, that they match, and that my isocurve direction follows, and that the isocurve direction follows this. And so any matching that I do, I want to make sure I do all of that before I set the trim of this edge. And so I find that that helps a lot on these trimmed corners, is to have a really nice isocurve flow here, that your isocurves match. So I'm going to split this little sliver surface that's split off of my main surface right here. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to F10 this. Right? I like turning on F10 when I'm doing matching. I'm going to do match surf here to my surface edge. And I want to do preserve isocurve direction. And I want to match by closest points. Right? This is what we do on basically every single trimmed edge when we match. This is how we want to do it. I can delete this curve. Good. And if we just want to visually look at it, we can tell that we're already getting really nice. I'm going to numerically analyze this because I have the ability to. And say apply. Cool. So we have two edges that are over our threshold, which is 0.2 degrees. Most people consider tangent to be 1 degree. I like to go below 0.2. Right? So both of these are at like 0.23. And so if we wanted to make these any better, we would again just go change degrees. Right? So sculpt low, match high. And we go from 4 to 5. And we go from 5 to 6. And now I'm going to run match surf on all of these at the same time and do multiple matches. And because we have this trimmed edge, and because we've already set these other edges to match the target isocurve direction, we want to preserve our isocurve direction, and we want to match our edges by closest points, set to tangency. Even though we're feeding it 4 edges, that is the right setting for all 4 of them at this point when we're matching all of them all at once. Once again, I'm going to analyze it. This is wonderful, right? So everything has a point, 0.0 in front of it, 0.03. My biggest tangency break is 0.03 degrees, 0.04 degrees, tiny. So now we delete this, we untrim this, we dupe this edge, right? And we join this. And we split this back surface with this curve. We discard it, and we join these. And we say show edges, right? Goes watertight. And then we can just delete this curve. So we have our top surface, right? This is sort of like a cooking show where you go, and then after 2 hours in the oven, right? So the bottom surface is constructed in exactly the same way. The one thing that I will mention for constructing the bottom surface is instead of using these surfaces as your guide or as your matching targets, I would instead suggest that you go back to your guide curves. You take this curve right here, this top view curve, and you create this guide surface instead that goes up instead of down. I would use this guide as your matching target instead of this, because if there's any, we want these to be, we've decided that this is the break between sort of the vertical line where both of these go away from vertical, right? So we want to match to this guide, not necessarily to the other surface, because if this other surface at this edge is 0.1 degrees off, which it could be, and could still be totally within what we consider to be our tolerance, but if this is 0.1 degrees off here, then that creates a problem when you try to adhere it to this, right? So realize that like this, along where our guide was, might be matched to within our tolerance, might not be matched exactly. In this case, it's matched exactly. But better practice is to use this guide and the opposite version of this guide to set this common edge here. It'll keep you out of trouble. So my finished surfaces, here we go, right? And we've got just, let me turn on my 3 view, right? We have just this classic airliner nose. You know, current ones are slightly more sleek than this, but you could use this exact same approach to modeling a completely modern airliner nose, right? It's super smooth. Everything is really, really tiny on this one. My deviations, the largest tangent break is like 0.13 degrees, something like that. Really nice and small. Certainly under 0.2. And this is how we do it, right? So we have something that is not really a body of revolution, but kind of looks to the untrained eye like a body of revolution. And so that, like I said, that starting with a body of revolution, I've never really been satisfied with the results of that. And so we don't have any singularities, right? We don't have any 3-sided patches where we're getting pinching or wrinkling in our surfaces. This is, to my mind, the right way to do it. I don't want to say the only way to do it, but I would say that the way where I wouldn't cringe if I handed this off, right? This is the sort of the quote unquote proper way to do this. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're starting to see how many different problems that we can solve with a trimmed corner. How important it is to have nice, clean input curves, right? By keeping everything planar, by keeping everything nice and tidy, by making sure that everything is tangent, right? We're really making it easier for ourselves to make nice surfaces. And so we end up with, right, this very, very classic airliner nose shape, right? Looks pretty cool. All right, I hope you got something good out of that.